Hello, my name is Taja, and I'm a first year at Maurer School of Law at Indiana University and a member of the International Law Society. You're watching Humans of Maurer, the interview series that asks 10 questions to help you get to know your Maurer community. ILS is taking over Humans of Maurer this month in celebration of International Women's Day on March 8th. Today, I'm speaking with Eleonora. The first question, could you tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you did before coming to Maurer?
Okay, so I'm from Italy. My dad's from the very north. My mom's from the south. So I lived this constant shift between the two extremes of high context, low context cultures. I was always obsessed with two things in my life, which were art and people's minds. So when it came to choosing what to study at university, I really wanted to pursue my passion for literature and psychology. One of the issues there was that there is a high social pressure, huge social pressure coming from this choice, and there is a massive social bias that these majors are not meaningful in general, leading to poor career opportunities. So, and I will say honestly, it was out of a compromise. I chose law, and I hated it. I hated it to death at first. I was frustrated by this choice, and then it started to slowly grow on me. I realized I was playing with words every day. I was storytelling pro bono clients' way out of poverty. I was back to my beloved mind chess. I was devising strategy during the fourth European Yugoslav Summer Moot Court competition in Brussels, where I represented Italian national team. I was not mired in those dusty provisions and stale theory as everyone said I would. I was working with NGOs like Lawyers Without Borders and incredible firms like the LA Piper. So I was seeing life and people at their best and at their worst too. So I had this priority view on the human mind. So to answer the question, I think when I was a kid, I had this staple answer to the what do you want to do when you grow up question. And I used to say, vivere tutte le vite, which in Italian means I want to live all lives. And it's so crazy, but that's what law has enabled me to do every day.
That's amazing, honestly. Like that story is like very impressive on how you just come to be yourself and who you are. So the second question is, what specific degree are you pursuing at Maurer right now?
So I am an LLM candidate. I'm an LLM candidate in financial regulation and capital markets. I'm pursuing a dual degree partnership program with Bocconi University and more. So in Italy, I am simultaneously completing my bachelor in law, and there I'm majoring in international policies and institutions. The why here and why this is almost as complicated as why law. So I always had in mind to have this hands-on approach to things. I like that. So this led me to get involved in pro bono activity, and I did that during my bachelor year at Maurer. In fact, here I'm a volunteer for the community legal clinic, and thanks to Carwina Wang's trust, I am also managing an independent clinical project. So what we do is we provide multilingual interpreter and legal services to the community and other pro bono associations, and we foster basically inclusion and cooperation among IU law and language students. My idea at first was to offer the spotlight for professionals that do pro bono work to represent language minorities. So these projects are incredibly rewarding, but legal clinics are also the most brutal way a law student finds out that for each person you take out of this trap of cyclical poverty, there is billions that still need your help. So this is why MAR, this is why financial regulation, this is why international policies, because while I help the individuals stuck in the cycle one by one, I also want to stop it for good. And in fact, my ultimate objective is fixing this upstream level, and maybe who knows, at the competition division of European Commission.
Wow, that's just amazing and inspiring, honestly. So what has been the hardest part of your transition to attending graduate school in a foreign country?
So I've been transitioning a lot in my life. When I was 3 years old, I was in the car with my parents, and I started reading road signs out of the blue in like Sixth Sense fashion. So they made me take a test. I was allowed to start elementary school directly from the second year, but that meant I lost all my kindergarten friends, which doesn't look like a big deal. But then I lived in the suburbs and chose an high school that was much farther away from my home, losing contact with everyone from my middle school. So then I moved to Como, which is another place away from the suburbs. And after graduation, I started law school there. But then I discovered that at Bocconi, they did this amazing law program. So I told myself I need to transfer there. So I transferred from Como and went to Milan to live by myself at 18. And everything looks small, but in perspective, this taught me that when you're far from the people you love, whether it's 100 miles or a word away, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So what I learned from that is that when you make meaningful connections, the word is your own. That being said, put on the record that I miss my folks really bad, and Italian food at the same time. Yeah, like crazy.
I can only imagine. What is the legal profession like for women in Italy?
Okay, that's a hard question to answer. I am very much not for politically correct and for blatant honesty. So it's definitely the first, definitely male dominated. I read an article the other day that said that Milan has 20,000 lawyers and it's half the entirety of France. So one city in Italy has half the entirety of France's lawyers, which tells you that getting into the profession and passing the bar exam is incredibly hard for young graduates in general, which leads to little to no recognition for internship, for example, which are mostly unpaid. So women in my country have been historically given two roles. We're either sluts or saints. And gender quotas are a commendable attempt, but it's an insufficient attempt to fix this kind of mentality. So what would be common is that you're asked in internship whether having children is among your intentions, or how one day we can all cultivate and show our greatness, having the same opportunities without gender being part of the equation and calculating how great we are.
Definitely. Yeah, I honestly, I feel like, wherever you go, there's always this dimension of gender issues. And it's really inspiring to see you just, working hard and trying your best to go against the grain and, really represent. What advice would you give to women thinking of studying abroad or earning a degree abroad?
I would tell them a story. My grandma told me she wanted to go to university, but her brother died while going to university by train. He was an engineer student. So her mother thought, well, it's the fault of the university. The university brings bad luck. So that's why my grandma couldn't go to university. She moved from the mountains to the city, and she started a successful business with her husband. And then she sent all 10 of her kids to university. So I have chills when I say this. My mom was not allowed to study law, which she loved. She really had a passion for it. She could only study something else because two of her brothers already were law students. So she had to choose biology. So she studied biology. She worked in labs. She literally did anything and everything to succeed in this profession. She had to move from the south to the north, knowing nobody, and finally landed a job as a professor. So all this stuff, like my mother being an immunologist, graduating with the highest honors, my grandma making all this effort to make her kids do what she couldn't do, is what I thought about when I was taking this step myself. I thought of them, and I thought, I am the product of these efforts, of this resilience. I want to honor it. So I would tell them that having this possibility itself, to be able to study abroad, to be able to graduate, is priceless. So this fruit, grow, and literally, the world is your home. Go get it.
I second that. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's perfect. What is one of your proudest or most interesting accomplishments?
So I know here is the section where people should say like publications, internships, blah blah. When I think about this, I can think only to the moment I bought my parents a TV with the first money I got from law. And it's nothing much. It's not something that we needed so badly, but just the idea of being able to give back to them. Or the shoes I bought for one of the kids at soccer, which couldn't afford them, and managed to come to practice with those. And probably in general, I think when kids are proud of you, you are doing good. So that's it. The fact that my family is proud, that the kids in my family are looking up to me, and even outside there, it's literally what keeps me going.
Yeah, I think kids are probably the most brutally honest. So if they think you're doing good, you probably are.
Yeah, if they hate you, you know it.
What is something you like to do for fun?
Oh, okay. This needs an interview itself. I'm a sucker for everything. I love the jack of all trades idea, which means I literally love life. I love things. So I like music, a lot. I play guitar, piano, sing, and write my own originals. I was actually writing an album when I was in Italy, and then had to stop everything for COVID. Come here, it was crazy. I love soccer. I played for the university team in Bocconi, and we actually won the Euro Paris Cup in 2020. It was amazing.
Oh
I
my
love my teammates, and it's just great to have that kind of hub, this kind of connection with people. I love sports in general, like swimming here. The pool's amazing. And I love art, as I said. So whether it's artists such as Schiele or Kandinsky or Bernini, or I love cinematography, Kim Ki-duk, Kieslowski, whatever. Yeah, I really love art. And also I enjoy strategic games. I love the interaction with the opponent, how they have developing resources management, teach you to see the bigger picture on time pressure. I like trading card games like Magic the Gathering or chess or esports in
Oh my
general.
gosh, me too. Wow.
What?
I said me too.
Oh, that's great.
Wow, you really are like the jack of all trades, like a little bit of everything, like every kind of sector that you could think of in terms of like hobbies.
It's just growing is addictive. Like learning is so powerful. It makes you feel like you really own life. So that's why I love it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel like more people should kind of take that approach, you know? The next question is, can you tell us about a role model who has inspired you over your career?
Um, my dad, definitely. He was in a farmer family, so they didn't have much money. He wanted to be an artist in life too, and actually ended up creating his own agency and becoming an insurance dealer without a degree. So it's definitely him. He is the most generous, passionate, strong, and sensible and sensitive to person I have ever met in my life. And I can only wish for myself to become 1/10 of what my dad is in life. It's definitely him.
Wow. So what motivates or inspires you?
I think going still on that note, I've seen, being from those two contexts, as I said, I've seen what it means to be honest people in a cruel reality, which is also extraordinary, but it's mainly cruel. So in this context, I think it's hard to understand what your dream is. I think I'm privileged in respect to what my parents had to endure, what my friends have to endure. And it's hard to focus on yourself because I think the best way to describe it is that they take the time away from you, which is the only thing you have. So when you're born in certain contexts, you have to work more to obtain what others already have and what should be granted for you too. So you're working to survive and you can't focus on your dreams. Um, what I think what motivates me, given that I've understood those contexts, is not to think that I have to have everything laid out manically, to throw myself into things and keep an open mind, just adjust while running. Because one thing that has always stopped me was thinking, maybe I don't measure up to this. I was afraid of judgment and feedback, being hypercritical about myself. And I am starting to learn that feedback is important, but I should be my ultimate form of measurements. And as I said, if the kids and the family in my life is proud of me, I think I am up to the challenge.
That's a good way to look at things. And finally, the last question, as we celebrate International Women's Day, what does International Women's Day mean to you?
Wow. It's incredibly important. Today, my way of celebrating it in advance was speaking at the 2021 statewide summit on women in tech. And I was talking about how when the European Union was being born, they didn't want to tackle policy, social policy. They had zero intent of doing that. Nonetheless, they had an exception in one of the treaties, which was the equal pay provision, Article 119 of the treaty. So you ask yourself, why would they do that if they don't want to shape social policy? They did that not due to this principal commitment of advancing gender equality. They did that because they didn't want France to not be able to compete with the other states since they had provisions on equal pay. They wanted every state to have provisions on equal pay, just for the sake of competition among states, because they didn't want someone to take advantage of relying on cheap female labor. So as a woman, as an international graded jurist, I was struck by the hidden meaning of this provision. And I decided to work on that, to start from equal treatment and to research fundamental rights, safeguards of employers and employees, and use labor law as my main line of inquiry. So my hope is that through Women's Day, we managed to educate ourselves about why we have these problems, what is the reasoning behind the provisions we have right now, whether they are sufficient, whether we should ask for more. I think it should raise awareness on this problem. It has to implement life-changing choices for the right reasons. So my main concern as a law student is this, that the even level playing field is achieved regardless of gender, but that it is done for the right reasons, not just for the sake of a compromise.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that's a great way to end on that note of positivity and inspiration for the future. So thank you so much, Eleonora, for spending some time with me. And thanks to all the viewers out there for watching Humans of Mauer. Follow along to this series to learn more about other members of the Mauer community. And be sure to follow ILS for more on International Women's Day and how to donate to our feminine hygiene collection drive to benefit I Support the Girls Bloomington.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.